Hello my friends and welcome back to another YouTube video. My name is Kimmy if you're new here, and today we are doing a PCOS Q&A. It's a Q&A. Hey. I went on my Instagram story a few months back and I actually asked you guys to give me any PCOS related questions that you had. And months later, I'm finally getting around to it because life is kind of simmering down. So I categorized these questions into a few different buckets, if you will. I did general questions, diet related questions, workout, acne, and then some miscellaneous questions. So I'm gonna do my best to answer them all for you today. But before we really crack into this thing, I do have to say, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nutritionist or anything of that sort. So please remember to listen to your body and always consult your own doctors and your healthcare team for anything that pertains to you and your health. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's do it, baby. We need a little sweet treat for this. Yeah. I was an Olipop girl for such a long time and I don't know what it is about Olipops, but I can't tolerate them anymore. I will only be able to have a fourth of a can. Tell me why. Kind of sad. Now I'm on the Poppy game. And I do like that flavor, but I think the orange one is my favorite. Anyways, let's get into it, shall we? First question here is, what symptoms did you have and how did the doctor determine that you have PCOS? I had a lot of symptoms, and looking back on it now, I was like, wow, this is classic PCOS. Why did nobody diagnose me for a while? The biggest one was that I was missing my period for 5 years, and then when my period did come back, it came back with a vengeance. Aunt Flo was visiting me every other week. So I was practically anemic. That was the first and very obvious red flag that something was wrong. I was also dealing with a lot of hormonal acne. Still to this day, I deal with hormonal acne, so that part never really went away, but that was a big one. I was experiencing unwanted weight gain and then a lot of hair loss and hair fallout, but also hair growth where I didn't want it. Chronic fatigue. I was getting bloated after almost every single meal, which is a big issue because I work in fitness. And at the time I also was a professional dancer, and you can probably put two and two together, being bloated all the time, and those two professions do not mesh well. So that was a big issue. And then I was experiencing a lot of mood swings too. So those were all of my symptoms clumped up together. And basically what I did is I went to an OB-GYN and I told them everything that I was experiencing. The first one wanted to put me on the pill, and I actually did go on the pill, but I hated it. It made me super depressed, not wanting to get off the couch, kind of depressed, and that is so not me. So I knew that that was not the route that I should go. I could tell you way more about that whole interaction with that doctor, but I'll spare you for this video. The second doctor that I went to would refuse to give me any kind of diagnosis. She didn't want to run any tests on me, and I basically had to go knocking on her door, not literally, but over the phone. Called her office multiple times just to get a test, and she was not helping me at all and wouldn't tell me why she didn't want to give me a test. So I found that very frustrating. And then the last doctor that I went to actually gave me the diagnosis. And the way that that worked out is went to her office, told her all my symptoms, just like I did with the other doctors. And she basically diagnosed me on the spot. She was like, listen, we have to do some tests to confirm this, but it really does sound like you have PCOS. Let's do some blood work to confirm. So I went back to her office. I did some blood work, which actually, oddly enough, they came back pretty normal. So usually with PCOS, you see high testosterone and low progesterone. My testosterone was normal, but my progesterone was super, super low. So that was really the only odd thing with my blood work. But she did inform me that even if the blood work comes back normal for Western medical standards, that doesn't necessarily mean that your body feels that your levels are normal. And if you are presenting issues and symptoms, then you most likely are experiencing hormone levels that are not good for your body. So that was a big aha moment. I also did an internal and external ultrasound with them. The external ultrasound did not show up with anything, but the internal ultrasound, that one got me good. That one was a little crazy. My right side was like blank, nothing. The tech actually said that like it was boring. Trying to like console me. She was like, this is so boring. Like nothing's wrong with this. It's fine. And I was like, oh, okay. Like kind of frustrated because I almost wanted a diagnosis of something. I was like, there's gotta be something wrong. But then she got over to my left side and she stopped talking completely. And I was like, what is that? Looking at the screen. And she was like, you know, and I was like, that looks like a black hole, because on an ultrasound, you just see a lot of like white and gray scale images and shapes. But when you see something black, it means that there's like a mass there. And she goes, it's about as pleasant as a black hole. And I was like, what is that? And she said that it's a cyst about the size of a lime. And I was like, well, will this require any kind of like surgical procedure? And she said no. And my doctor confirmed that they just let them dissolve, or they kind of burst on their own. Like it wasn't big enough to intervene medically. So I don't know if I still have that cyst with me to this day, but all of those things together, my blood work, my symptoms, and that cyst all came together to show that I have PCOS. Okay, next question is, where did you start once you got your diagnosis and the doctor wanted to put you on the pill? So that first doctor did want to put me on the pill. I did go on it for about 2 months, and then I just completely cut it out cold turkey, which I do not recommend doing. Definitely talk to your doctor whenever you're considering getting off of medication, because I do think that there are some serious implications of just stopping. So talk to your doctor if you are considering getting off the pill. But once I got off the pill and was in that process of getting a diagnosis, I was still doing everything as normal, like eating the same way, working out the same way. It wasn't until I got diagnosed with PCOS that I decided to more seriously take on the concept of cycle syncing. I did cycle sync nutritionally and for the workout portion of what cycle syncing suggests. And I kind of just treated myself, because my period was so freaking irregular, I treated myself as if I was in my luteal phase like 100% of the times when it came to the workout part of things. So I did a lot more low impact exercise. I did a lot more breath work. I strength trained, but I didn't push myself to the point where I felt like super sore and exhausted right after my workout. And I just was kind of more gentle with myself in general. And then when it came to the food aspect of it, I did focus a lot more on protein. Protein was my BFF. Protein and fiber too. I ate a lot more vegetables, and that helped me a ton. Okay, next question is how to begin to correct hormone imbalance. I think the first place that everybody should start at is going to get your blood work done. Like I said, it might not reveal the most, but it might reveal something and kind of nudge you in the right direction. When it comes to hormone imbalances, I know it's such a blanket statement, but you really should know which specific hormone you need to quote unquote balance out in order to make the most progress in your health. So for example, like if your testosterone is super low, you're gonna have to do something completely different from someone who has really high testosterone. So just starting there and really peeking under the hood, getting to know your body, where it is at in that exact moment and exactly what it needs, is so beneficial. Next category, we have diet. And the first question is, how do you limit carbs for the best PCOS diet? I'm sick of quinoa and need ideas. I get that. I really do. I mean, I love me some quinoa, but you can only have like the same food for so long, you know? And that's coming from me, who is very much a creature of habit. So I think when it comes to limiting carbs for PCOS, it's less about completely cutting them out of your diet and more so about just pairing your carbs with other things. I call it like naked carbs. You never want naked carbs, because that's what's going to spike your blood sugar, and that's not necessarily the best thing to do when you have PCOS. You want to avoid blood sugar spikes as much as you can. So instead of having this big like demarcated spike and then this big drop in your blood sugar, you want it to be a little bit more like this, right? We're just riding the wave nice and easy, kind of keeping yourself topped off all day. And one of the best ways to actually achieve that little easy wave is to pair your carbs with other things like healthy fats and proteins. Another thing to do if you're trying your best to limit carbs, but you're still feeling like hungry, because carbs are very satiating and we need carbs, but when you start to cut back a little bit, your body will notice it right away and will tell you that you're hungry, right? So one of the best ways to work against that and to kind of mediate that feeling of like extreme hunger when you are limiting your carbs at the beginning is to have more high volume foods. So just focusing on foods that have a lot of fiber and are super water dense and kind of loading up on those in place of the carbs that you are not putting on your plate. So for example, you could have some rice with your chicken, but you can pair that with some sauteed vegetables on the side or a salad. Next question in the diet category. It says, any key changes to your diet that helped you get your period back? Yes. For me specifically, I was dancing professionally. I was also teaching fitness for a living and just kind of burning my body like the candlestick at both ends. Like I was just withering away and I was not giving myself nearly enough food. And again, like that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother video. Maybe we can discuss that in another video if you guys want to. But for me, it was just about integrating a lot more food into my diet. That was the biggest thing. And then I also think calming down the physical output that I was going through really helped a lot. I didn't actually get my period back until like the COVID shutdown because I was slowing down. For example, I would start my day at like 4 a.m. I would go teach a fitness class, whether that was bar or like high intensity cycle at Equinox, which I love my Equinox fam. That was such a fun time in my life. Like, love it. But it was a lot because then right after that, I would step into dance rehearsal from, I think it was like 8 a.m. till 4, I want to say, or maybe 9 to 4. I was on my feet that entire time and not just like standing and watching, but I was doing the movements like full out throughout all those dance rehearsals every freaking day. And then on the weekends, I would teach dance or I would teach more fitness. And even after my dance rehearsals would end, I would go teach more classes. So I was exhausted. And once the world kind of shut down, there were no theaters, there were no gyms, I had to really sit with myself, literally, and realize that I need to calm down. And I think that just helped bring me back to a little bit more like safety in my body. You know, your period goes away because your body is telling you that you do not feel safe. Like you are not in a safe environment to create a little baby. And so that's where I was at. So I needed to eat more and I needed to move less, which is like the opposite of all health advice that like we ever hear as Americans. But that is actually what I needed to do to get healthy because I was living in such an extreme state. Best supplements and why. If you were like me and you relate to like that state of being from the last question, like just the go, 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 you need a multivitamin. Because if you are not getting enough nutrients from your food, you should at least be trying to supplement that with a good multivitamin just to try to hit your bases. So I think everybody should be having that. A good probiotic is awesome. And then inositol for PCOS specifically, because it does help to balance out your blood sugar, which is like a key issue with PCOS. Workout category. First question here is, how did you balance weight loss for PCOS and a healthy relationship with food? This is such a good question, but it's also such a loaded question and one that I feel like we could unpack for days. Like I could probably write a whole book about this. It is really, really hard to accept your body changing while also wanting to lose weight for your health. It's just really tough. It's like a mental game. So I think the biggest thing that actually really helped me was just being gentle on myself mentally. Like your mental health and the way that you speak to yourself is everything, and it is always, always, always going to be reflected in the way that you look and the way that you move and the way that you act. So I think the biggest thing for me was just working on my self-confidence, doing the things that I said I was gonna do, but also having grace for myself and understanding that if I messed up, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's okay to calm down a little bit. It doesn't have to all happen overnight. It kind of reminds me of like the paper towel analogy. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. I saw another creator do this and it really changed my perspective. But if you can imagine like holding a paper towel roll, you losing weight is like taking one sheet of the towel off at a time. And when you look at it, it doesn't really make a big difference visually, but you did just make a big difference. You made one small step in the right direction. And the more and more that you show up and you take those paper towel rolls off, the more weight that you will lose or more improvements that you'll see in your body composition. So all that is to say that it takes time and you might not see it right away, but just because you don't see it right away doesn't mean it's not happening. You know what I mean? And I think when it comes to more like disordered eating patterns, that really comes from a place of self-loathing and impatience. Being like, well, it's not happening right now, so F it, I'm just gonna have like the whole box of cookies or whatever, or F it, I'm just gonna go on like a 10-mile run, and even though I don't have the energy for it, I'm gonna push myself to do it. So having the grace to understand that these things take time, and that, you know, your body needs to be handled in a more gentle way is like everything, at least in my journey. And again, like I can do a whole other video on that, on like the ways that I've built my self-esteem and my self-confidence, the way that I've gotten more used to my body changing and growing and shifting. So if you guys want a video on that topic, let me know, because I could chat about this for days. Okay, next thing is finding out what workouts worked best for your PCOS. This is my favorite thing to talk about. So when you have PCOS, like I've been saying all video, you need to balance your blood sugar. And one of the best ways to do that physically is just to have more lean muscle mass on your body, because muscle mass is actually a little storage site for glucose. So if you think about it this way, say you eat something that gets converted into sugar in your bloodstream. The problem occurs when that blood sugar is continuing to circulate and there's nowhere else for that sugar to go in your body. So what's helpful is for you to have a place for it to kind of tuck away into for later use that's not as problematic as like adipose fat tissue or just lingering in your blood, because that's when insulin resistance can start to form, which again, big issue when it comes to your hormone health. Strength training is the biggest thing to help with that. That was like such a roundabout way of explaining it, but strength training is everything. I love to strength train 2 to 3 times a week, like actually picking up heavy weights, getting to failure in my workouts. But I also really love Pilates. I find that it's a beautiful and gentle way to work towards your strength, especially core strength, without like ramping up the intensity to the point where I feel like exhausted and spent. I still feel like energized, and I even feel more like calm after I do it, which I think is rare in a lot of other forms of strength training. So those would be the 2 things that I think has worked best for my PCOS. It's strength training. One is a little bit more intense and a surefire way to build that lean muscle mass that helps to balance out the blood sugar. And then the other, which is Pilates, it's a little bit more calm, but again, still getting strong. Okay, next question is, do you believe in cycle syncing? And if so, do you do it and why? Another loaded question. So like I said, I did do cycle syncing at the beginning more loosely, because I just treated myself as if I was in one phase versus doing like every single phase as cycle syncing suggests. But as I progressed in my PCOS journey, I did start to kind of fall back away from cycle syncing. Not that I don't think it's helpful, I just found it to be a lot of busy work. I'm sure if I were to stick with it, it would become more intuitive, but I just felt like it was adding more stress to my routine than really helping me. Do I think that it's super beneficial and that if you love it and it works for you, you should do it? Yes, absolutely. Like if you find anything that works for you and that you feel amazing doing, please by all means do it, because you know your body better than anyone. But for me personally, it just wasn't the best move. I also am a fitness instructor and a trainer, and I just believe deep down in my core that you can't really get great results in a timely manner if you continue to switch up your routine. If you aren't familiar with cycle syncing, it basically just suggests that you change up your workouts and your nutrition and even like your lifestyle in terms of like your social behavior and your work behavior to match whatever phase you're in of your cycle. And while that sounds great in theory, when it comes down to the workout part of it, it can be a little tricky, because cycle syncing suggests, for example, during your menstrual phase, you should just go on walks. For your follicular phase, you can start to ramp up the intensity, do some strength training, go on a run. For your ovulatory phase, you can do like HIIT workouts and boxing and like anything super high intensity. And then for your luteal phase, start to taper it back a ton. That altogether doesn't really add up to much. It's not like one specific goal. While I love cross training, I like cross training with a plan. Just doing like one method of working out one week, completely switching it the next week, completely switching it the week after that, it might not be as effective. And again, if you are doing this and you're moving your body and you feel great, like please continue to go forward with your bad self. I love that for you. But for me, I really believe in consistency, in a set routine, finding a plan and modalities that work for you, sticking with that for a few months before you change and go to something else. So that's my take on the workout side of it. Nutritionally, I think there's a lot more research that backs up and kind of validates the ideas behind cycle syncing. So I will change up like little things here and there in my diet, depending on what phase I'm in. But for the most part, I'm not taking it super seriously. I'm not like completely changing up my breakfast depending on what week it is in the month. I hope that answers the question. Last one for the workout portion here. It says, on your rest days, do you completely rest or do you still walk and do something active? I definitely still walk and do something active. I'm just like a super hyper person in general, and I can't sit still for the life of me. Like, you could pay me and I would not be able to sit still. So on my rest days, I do like to go on walks. I like to walk in general just as much as possible because it's just really good for your health and your cardio. But I will sometimes take the energy that I'm not using for a workout and channel it into like chores, for example. Like if I get the urge to like deep clean my house, I will take that instead of a workout all day. And honestly, it's still a workout. Like if you've ever tracked your calories while cleaning your house, you might be surprised. Like, it's effective, at least for calorie burning, maybe not for muscle. So yeah, I'll go on walks, I'll clean my apartment, I'll do anything that requires a lot of energy, even like mental load. Like if I have a ton of emails to catch up on, I'll do that while like walking at my desk, that kind of thing. So yeah. And the category is acne. First question here is, what helped the most and what are you doing for your skin now? What helped the most for me is reducing my stress levels. Like, stress is so critical in your health. It can push you in the worst way or it can push you in the best way. And I think just getting a hold of my stress was really, really important. Like for me personally, I was just normalizing my stress to the point where I didn't realize how stressed I was. Like I recently just left my job and I started my own company, which is a different kind of stress altogether, but I feel so much better not having that stress from that previous job now. And it shows in my skin. Like almost a week after I had left that job, my skin immediately cleared up, got so glowy. I got so many compliments on it. It was bizarre, but I say all that to say, look at your stress because it controls everything. Second part of this question is, what are you doing for your skin now? I like to go get a facial like once a month if I can fit it into the budget. I will get extractions during that facial, and I think that that's been the best thing for me because my acne, beside like the cystic pimples, which are the worst, my acne is closed comedones, which is just where you get like a lot of the texture, and no matter how much you pick at it, it will not go away. You know what I mean? That's the kind of acne that I have. So getting a lot of extractions and getting chemical peels too has helped me a ton. Next question is, are there specific foods to avoid for acne? No, I don't think so. I think the only maybe food group that you could tamper down if you are struggling a lot with your acne is just like that high processed, sugary, snacky kind of food. So, you know, for me, I have an addiction right now to sour gummy worms, and it shows in my skin. It for sure shows. So I'm trying to peel back on that as much as I can, and it's taking a lot of willpower. But also, I'll add to this, alcohol. Alcohol is huge for acne. I just went to a bachelorette this past weekend. My skin has never broken out so badly. Well, it has, but it hasn't broken out this badly in a very long time. Like maybe even like last summer when I was in the thick of my PCOS issues, it was that bad. But like I just got back and I was like, I've seen pimples and like whiteheads where I've never seen them before. And while I had so much fun with my friends, I did come back home and I told my boyfriend Benjamin, I was like, I'm not drinking for like 4 more years. Like I am done. I think alcohol is a big one. That's a big culprit because it's a literal toxin. Like, come on. If you can drink alcohol without breaking out, you're a unicorn, and I love that for you. Rock on, sister. But also the high processed foods, the sugars, you know. Last question here in the acne section is, how do you deal with purging? I think this one relates to how do you lose weight for PCOS while also like fighting against the maybe disordered eating? And it all goes back to how you talk to yourself. When you are going through like a big acne flare up, I think it's very easy, and I'm speaking from experience, to feel like the world is only looking at your acne when they see you, which is not true. Finding that self-confidence and that assurance again that like this too shall pass mindset, I think is really important. But another thing that helps with purging for me is not picking my face. I'm still a picker to this day. I cannot even lie to you guys. Like, I for sure picked as it. This morning, I did. Did it make it any better? No, it made it worse. So reminding myself and reminding you that picking does not help. In fact, it spreads more bacteria and it can make your acne way worse, especially the scarring after. No, we don't want it. So something that I do for that is I have this like little moon lamp in my bathroom. Hold on, I have to show you. I'm gonna get it. Look at how stinking cute this is. My friend got this for me, I think for my birthday, or maybe it was for Christmas, I don't remember. But it's a little lamp, and I'll put this on at night when I'm doing my skincare. If I remember to charge it, I'll put it on at night when I'm doing my skincare instead of the overhead lighting, because I'm not able to see all those like imperfections, the zits, the blackheads as easily. And it's also just like very calming and zen, which, you know, lowering your stress levels helps with everything. So I'll do that, dim the lighting whenever I'm doing my skincare, especially at night, because that's when I tend to be like the worst picker. But also I will be an arm's length away at all times from any mirror ever, because if I get close, you know, up close and personal, I start to just see it all, which like nobody ever looks at you that closely. So like, why are we doing that to ourselves, you know? So reducing picking, getting ready in like more dimly lit vibes, I think is really helpful. And then not using anything that's gonna like incredibly dry out your face or make your skin super reactive, because there's nothing worse than like breaking out and then having like super dry flaky skin on top of it. So I like to moisturize a lot. I find that that helps to calm any purging that I experience. Okay, we are in the last category. This is the kind of miscellaneous section. So these questions are a little rando, but the first one is, have I dealt with unwanted hair? How to handle it? Yes, I for sure have. First of all, I have Middle Eastern roots, so like I'm just generally hairy, but I just pluck. I considered doing laser, but I heard that you just have to like keep it up forever. Like, I don't know. Let me know what your experience is, and maybe I'll consider it if you had a good one. But I've heard from a lot of people that it's kind of a scam. Like, you just have to keep doing it over and over or else the hair grows back, especially if you're a little bit more on the hairy side. But I'll just pluck whenever I need to. Honestly, I don't embrace the extra hair. I don't love it. So I'll just rip her out. You know what I mean? Next question here is, how do I deal with pre-period emotions? Good question. I'll lean into it. Honestly, I will lean into it. For me, I don't get like angry or frustrated or anything when I'm in that like pre-menstrual phase, but I do get quite sappy. I get very sappy, and sometimes I'll get a little irritable. So for me, I like to watch a lot of sappy movies, and somehow like my social media feeds, like they just know what phase I'm in, because they will send me like the cutest baby videos and the cutest puppy videos, and I'll just be on the couch like bawling my eyes out. But I find that watching more like sappy films like helps me just get it out of my system instead of like bottling it up. I think that makes it worse. So I just try to embrace being emotional, you know? And then I'll also let my boyfriend know, because me and my boyfriend live together, so he has to deal with my ass more than anybody else. I'll let him know when I am in that PMS phase, and he'll be extra nice to me. Which helps a lot. So I think just like informing the people around you of like how you're feeling. Be like, hey, I'm not in the mood to like chit chat extra hard today. I don't, like, if you got drama going on, like, please, I'm gonna protect my peace today. Like, don't fill me in. Just let people know how you're feeling in your life so they can cut you some slack. And then I think just like lean into the emotions, read that sappy book, watch that chick flick, and go on with your life. Ride the wave, you know what I mean? Last question here is, How do I help hair grow after being affected by PCOS? This goes back to getting your hormones tested and understanding what the root cause is of that. Sometimes it might be a lifestyle shift that you have to make depending on what's causing that. Sometimes you might be able to supplement with like hormone therapy or some kind of like progesterone topical treatment. So figuring out exactly what's at the root of that is super helpful. But again, I think just in general, lowering your stress can always help. Doing what you can to feel super zen, like not just, oh, I did my 5-minute meditation and that's it. No, like change the stressful situations in your life if you have control over it. Do try to do that. And also, it can't hurt to treat your scalp like a damn queen, okay? I really like, I'll put you guys onto it, the Crown Affair Scalp Scrub Shampoo. I think that's what it's called. But if you just look up Crown Affair Scalp Scrub, it's the best thing ever. Like my scalp feels squeaky clean to the point where I can like hear it after I use it. And I'll use that about once a week. And I'll also, like whenever doing anything to my hair, I'll use one of those like scalp massagers and I'll just kind of like circle it around a little bit extra, make sure that the product like gets in, works out any gunk in my hair. And also it helps to stimulate blood flow, which is really important for hair regrowth. So all those things I think can help. I also really like, there's a treatment from The Ordinary. Now I have to find it again. Hold on. Okay, we're back. I found it. So this is The Ordinary Hair Care Multi-Peptide Serum for Hair Density, a concentrated serum for hair that looks thicker, denser, fuller, and healthier. I was using this very consistently for a few months, and I will say I did see a change. So I like this. There you go. Now you can see it. I really like this. I think it works better than like the rosemary oil or like rosemary water treatments. I did try that for a little bit. It didn't do much for me, but I like this. This gal's cute, and just like generally washing your hair enough and using like a really good detox shampoo or a scalp scrub, like I was saying. All right, you guys, that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and got a lot of great info from this. If you have any more questions about PCOS, please do not hesitate to comment them below because I'd love to do a part 2. If you are a PCOS warrior, which I'm assuming you are if you've made it to the end of this video, know that I love you. I'm in your corner. I'm always rooting for you, and the light is very much at the end of the tunnel. Just keep chugging along and never, never, never stop choosing yourself, okay? I will see you guys in another video soon. Bye!